Are you curious about what is changing with Medicare supplement plans for 2025?
Tell me.
Maybe you're just starting your Medicare journey or you're exploring new Medigap options. Either way, understanding what is ahead can help you make more informed and confident choices. In today's video, we will unpack the 2025 Medigap market across the US, giving you an insider's view of the trends, updates, and key changes that you can expect. We will cover everything from the average premiums for popular plans like the Plan G, Plan N, and the High-Deductible G, to the latest trends in rate increases, how plans are rated across regions, and what is happening to out-of-pocket costs. Plus, we will discuss new regulations that are in store for 2025 and compare how Medigap enrollment stacks up to Medicare Advantage plans. Now, why does this matter? While Medigap benefits they might seem steady, the market is anything but. Premiums shift, new companies enter, others exit, and fresh regulations can reshape your options depending on where you live. Let's start with some key updates on costs for 2025, which could impact your Medigap plan decisions. First up, the Medicare Part B base premium. It is increasing from $174.70 per month in 2024 up to $185 per month in 2025. Now, while this premium is of course independent of your Medigap coverage, that extra $10 a month, it just adds to the overall financial pressure when you also include Medigap and Part D premiums. And it is not just premiums. There is also an increase to the Medicare Part B deductible for this year. It is going from $240 for the year in 2024 up to $257 in 2025. If you're enrolled in a Medigap Plan G or a Plan N, this means that the out-of-pocket cost before your plan starts covering most services will also be higher heading into 2025, since as a reminder, these two popular plan letters, they do not cover the Medicare Part B deductible, as you can see on the chart on the screen. Before talking about changes to the high-deductible Medigap plans, as a reminder, my name is Cameron Giardini, and together with my family, we operate our Medicare-focused independent insurance agency called Giardini Medicare. We will of course provide a link in the description below if you want to get personalized help from one of our brokers, and you can also scan the QR code you can see here on the screen to access our private Facebook group, which you can join in order to ask us all of your Medicare questions so you can get personalized answers that are pretty hard to find in a YouTube video. Now let's talk about more adjustments, and this time to the high deductible Medigap limit in 2025. For plans like the high deductible Plan G and the high deductible Plan F, the deductible is increasing from $2,800 in 2024 to $2,870 in 2025. If you are considering one of these plans, make sure to watch our in-depth high deductible Plan G video after this one. Shifting to talking about Medigap premiums, let's discuss what you can likely expect across the country in 2025. The Kaiser Family Foundation released a report showing nationwide average monthly premiums for Medigap plans. Now, while this data is interesting, it does come with some important caveats we have to point out. First, the data is from 2023. So prices have obviously changed since then. Second, it includes all Medigap policyholders and every plan letter, age group, and even includes plans that are no longer available to new enrollees. So while this information is helpful for some general information, the map, it's really not that accurate for if you're shopping for coverage now. That is why we decided to do some digging ourselves.
Get to the bottom of this.
We looked at up-to-date premiums for 2025 for the most popular Medigap plan letters. These are the Plan G, the Plan N, and the High-Deductible G. To make this more practical for you, our viewers, we analyzed premiums for both 65-year-olds and 75-year-olds across every state, focusing on large metro areas where there is a higher number of Medicare enrollees. Although pricing can and will vary in different parts of each state, this does give you a good idea of overall pricing. We also considered pricing for non-tobacco users, and we used average premiums for both men and women, and last but not least, we did not take into account possible household discounts. After crunching the numbers ourselves, We feel that we can provide realistic estimates for Medigap premiums in every state as we head into 2025. Keep in mind that we did average the 5 cheapest Medigap plans in each state for these examples. For example, if we look here on the screen at a quote for a Plan G for a 65-year-old female in Metro Detroit, we see that the average of the 5 cheapest plans is about $126 per month. This is the number we then used in the video after doing the same quote for a 65-year-old male. However, you can also clearly see that there is an outlier Plan G being offered at $109 per month. Instead of just using the absolute cheapest plan available in each state, we chose to use the average pricing since, as we have talked about in many videos already, choosing the cheapest Medigap plan is not always the right strategy. Now that you know how we came up with these numbers, let's see what Medigap premiums look like across the US for 2025. To help you visualize these costs, first we will compare the average premiums for Plan G, Plan N, and the high-deductible Plan G for 65-year-olds in each state across the country. Premiums vary significantly depending where you live, as you can see from this map. As we show these maps, don't forget to take some time and pause the video if you want to look at them in more detail. We will also link to images of these maps in the description of the video. Since we also collected the average premium data for these different Medigap plans for those of you watching this who are age 75, you can see on the screen how Medigap Plan G prices will vary for someone enrolling at age 65 versus age 75. Again, you can pause here to see more of these details. We also did the same thing for the Plan N, as you can see here, comparing age 65 and 75 prices. And last but not least, we of course did the same thing for the high-deductible Plan G. We wanted to do this just because we often talk about Medigap prices for those new to Medicare at age 65, but it is not uncommon to also be shopping Medigap plans as you age at age 75, 85, and maybe even age 95. Just remember, if you are watching this video and you're currently 65 years old, if you look at the premiums for a 75-year-old, that does not mean that is what you're going to pay for your current Medigap plan in 10 years. For instance, somebody enrolling in a new Medigap Plan N at age 75 today will almost certainly have a plan with a lower monthly premium compared to a different 75-year-old who currently has a Plan N who enrolled in that Plan N 10 years ago at age 65. If you'd like a deeper dive on how Medigap premiums increase over time, make sure you watch our dedicated video on that topic. After seeing these average prices across the country, if you want to see Medigap pricing for your specific zip code, Medicare.gov is of course a good place to start, as you can see here on the screen. However, we do of course highly recommend working with an independent broker who can compare multiple Medigap plan letters and insurance companies so that they can ultimately help you enroll in a Medigap plan that you're happy with for years to come. To learn more about what goes into choosing a specific Medigap plan beyond just the premiums, you can also watch this video next. Finally, to finish talking about Medigap premiums, in 2025, let's talk about how Medigap plans are rated. And no, we're not talking star ratings. Instead, the rating method used for your Medigap plan determines how your premiums are calculated and how they might increase over time. There are 3 main types: attained age rated, issue age rated, and community rated. Here from the official Choosing a Medigap Policy Handbook, you can see how these premium ratings work. So again, pause the video if you want to read this in more detail. After reading about and understanding these 3 different Medigap rating structures, most people tend to think that the issue age and community rated plans sound more appealing since they do not have built-in premium increases as you age. However, even with issue age and community rated plans, you will still experience premium increases over time due to medical claims and inflation, just like it says from the official Choosing a Medigap guidebook. Now, before you rush to get your own issue age plan, keep in mind that the state you live in will drastically impact which of these 3 Medigap rating structures are available to you. Some states like Idaho, for example, they mandate that all Medigap plans are community rated, while Arizona prohibits plans being attained age rated, and most plans in that state are actually issue age rated. Here is a map of the most common Medigap ratings in each state as we head into 2025. And as you see this map, you'll probably realize that it is pretty clear that most of you watching this will likely end up enrolled in an attained age Medigap plan when it's all said and done. Navigating these ratings in each state is yet another area where an independent broker can help. Now that we've covered average Medigap premiums, let's talk about something that is often even more important, which is how Medigap premiums increase over time. Unfortunately, 2024, it brought some of the highest Medigap premium increases in recent memory. Inflation, higher medical claims post-COVID, and other factors all contributed to these changes. According to data from the Telos actuarial firm, average premium increases for Plan F, Plan G, and Plan N were just under 10% in 2024, with Plan N seeing slightly lower increases than Plan F and Plan G. If you were hoping for lower increases in 2025, well, I've got bad news.
If you deliver bad news like it's bad news, it's going to be bad news.
In October 2024, Telos reported that average rate increases for Plan F, Plan G, and Plan N are currently trending about 1% higher in 2025 than the already higher than normal increases in 2024. To better understand these trends, we analyzed the rate increases for 32 different Medigap plans in Michigan in 2024. Now, while we could not do this in every state, or we would simply never get this video done, Michigan provides a solid representation of a pretty typical Medigap market. We found that Plan F premiums, they increased in 2024 by an average of 9.14%, Plan G increased by 8.57%, and Plan N premiums increased by 7.68%. As for 2025, we have already started tracking premium increases as they are announced by insurance companies. So far, as of recording this video in early December 2024, we looked at rate increase data for 14 Medigap companies with open blocks of business, and those increases, they are so far showing Plan F premiums are increasing by an average of 10.41%, Plan G by 12.85%, and Plan N by 10.16%. These increases that we analyzed on our own, they roughly align with the trends reported by Telos Actuarial, showing a pretty clear sign that 2025 Medigap premium increases are even higher than what we saw in 2024. Additionally, we examined increases for closed blocks of business, which are plans that are no longer open for new enrollment. Although we know that this is a small sample size, we looked at 6 closed blocks of business from different Medigap companies, and the average premium increases for 2025 with these plans is a staggering 18% for Plan F and Plan N, and an even higher 22% for Plan G. This is significantly higher than the increases for the plans that are still open to new enrollment. Not that it makes it any better, but we do have to point out that our closed book sample size only included 6 different insurance companies, and that average, it is heavily skewed by a 50% increase by the individual assurance company to their Plan G. That is perhaps one of the largest single increases that we have seen in a Medigap plan. Overall, in 2024, Michigan alone saw 5 different insurance companies close blocks of business, and we expect to see more of the same in 2025 as companies struggle to compete with competitive pricing. To learn how the opening and the closing of blocks of business impacts premium increases, again, make sure you watch this video you can see on the screen. We wanted to highlight these average increases in this video because higher premium increases can have a major impact on long-term affordability of your Medigap coverage. For example, if you enroll in a plan at age 65 with a monthly premium of $120 per month and you experience 10% annual increases, your premium would roughly double to $240 per month in just 7 years by the time you are 72 years old. By comparison, your premium would take roughly 15 years to double if your annual increases were only 5%. While we all can hope for lower increases in the future, double-digit Medigap premium hikes, they don't show any sign of slowing down, and it is essential to plan and budget accordingly. Now that we've seen the trend of higher Medigap premium increases, let's look at the overall Medigap enrollment trends as we start the new year. These trends, they offer valuable insight on how Medigap plans might stack up against other Medicare options, particularly Medicare Advantage plans. According to the Telos Actuarial 2024 Future of Medicare Supplement report, which we will of course link to below, Medicare Advantage enrollments, they are rapidly outpacing Medigap enrollments, and this trend is not slowing down anytime soon, no matter how many negative Medicare Advantage comments we get in every video. In fact, in 2025, there are expected to be about 36 million Medicare Advantage enrollees compared to just 14 million Medigap enrollees. While national enrollment trends are interesting, the decision between Medicare Advantage and Medigap plans ultimately depends on your personal budget, healthcare needs, and the type of coverage that you prefer. It can also depend on where you live. If we zoom in on state-level data, it is very clear that there is a lot of variation. For example, here from KFF, they show that a state like Iowa has 67% of traditional Medicare beneficiaries enrolled in a Medigap plan, whereas in Hawaii, that number drops to just 9%. This shows how regional differences can play a significant role in enrollment trends and what might make sense to you. Due to Medicare also being a government-run program, politics can also influence Medicare Advantage versus Medigap enrollment trends. Although we rarely ever discuss politics on this channel,
I don't talk politics after dinner.
Since we are talking about the overall Medigap landscape, it is important to note that the new administration has expressed support for growth in Medicare Advantage enrollment.
Enrollment in Medicare Advantage has increased by over 70%. The fact is, everyone around you is signing up.
So at least for now and in the near future, we fully expect the shift towards Medicare Advantage enrollment to continue, like we've seen in recent years. However, before you panic, we don't think this means that Medigap plans will simply disappear anytime soon. Now let's finish discussing Medigap enrollment trends by focusing on the trends within specific plan letters. As of 2023, according to KFF, Plan G officially surpassed Plan F as the most popular Medigap option with the largest number of total enrollees. But when we look at new enrollments, and not just the overall numbers, the percentage of new Plan G enrollments is much higher than the other plan letters. According to Telos Actuarial, in 2024, Plan G made up approximately 65% of new Medigap enrollments. Plan N also gained ground, overtaking Plan F as the second most popular plan for new enrollees. Plan N now accounts for 20% of new enrollments compared to just about 15% for Plan F. Looking ahead, we only expect Plan N's popularity to grow, especially as premium increases continue to push consumers towards lower-cost Medigap options. However, we simply don't foresee a world where Plan N enrollments become more common than Plan G. At the end of the day, we have always found that despite the higher premiums, at our agency, most of the people that we talk to on a day-to-day basis, they prefer the coverage and the simplicity of the Plan G. However, of course, if you are considering Plan G versus Plan N, make sure you watch our detailed comparison video after this one. Or if you prefer an even lower premium Medigap option, don't forget to watch our high-deductible Medigap video. Finally, let's round things out by talking about legislative changes that are affecting the Medigap market in 2025 and beyond. Several states, they have introduced or passed new laws that will impact Medigap coverage, and it is important to understand what is changing and how it might impact you directly. On the screen here, you will see various states where new Medigap legislation has been proposed, along with some states like Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, and Nebraska, where new laws have already been signed into law and will take effect in 2025 or 2026. One key area of focus for this new legislation involves expanding Medigap coverage and options for individuals under age 65 who qualify for Medicare due to disability, ALS, or end-stage renal disease. Historically, under 65 beneficiaries, they have had fewer Medigap options and often face significantly higher Medigap premiums than their 65-plus counterparts. In Nebraska, starting January 1st, 2025, insurance companies selling Medigap policies to individuals 65 and older, they must also offer at least one plan letter to under 65 beneficiaries. For these plans, the premiums cannot exceed 150% of what is charged to those 65 and older for the same coverage. However, when this does happen, normally companies will just offer a basic plan like the Plan A for the Medigap coverage, so it might not be as helpful as we might think. Now, Indiana has gone a step further, and a new law requires that all plan letters offered by a Medigap insurance company also be available to Medicare beneficiaries under age 65. For Medigap Plans A, B, and D, the premiums cannot exceed those charged to individuals that are age 65. And for the other plan letters, premiums cannot exceed 200% of the 65-year-old rates. In addition to these changes, Minnesota and Illinois are implementing new rules to make it easier for individuals to access Medigap plans. For example, in 2026, Illinois will expand their existing birthday rule, allowing beneficiaries to switch Medigap plans during a specific window surrounding their birth month, and they can do this without facing medical underwriting. However, in Minnesota, they have passed a new law creating 2 new open enrollment periods for Medicare beneficiaries to enroll in Medigap coverage without health questions. We will link to the details of this new and impactful legislation, but just know that this new law's implementation was recently delayed all the way until 2026. These changes, they highlight a growing trend towards providing greater flexibility for Medigap enrollees, particularly for those that face many barriers to accessing care today. If you would like to explore the specifics of these new laws, we have included links in the video description to resources highlighting these changes. If you are wondering about the other proposed legislation in the other states that we showed on the map, we will link to a document as well that details each of these, but just know it is not uncommon for newly proposed Medigap legislation to get stuck in different legislative committees only for them never to see the light of day. Like always, subscribe to our channel for more updates on these changes as they continue to develop. As we've seen, the Medigap market for 2025, it's full of changes from rising premiums and rising deductibles to new legislative rules designed to improve access and affordability. While the core benefits of Medigap plans remain stable, the market is constantly changing. Premiums shift, plans come and go, and new regulations shape the Medigap landscape. One thing that has not changed, though, is the constant debate between Plan G and Plan N. So make sure you click here to watch that video next.